Folks, I'm back with something really cool, something I've been a part of for a long time, and it's finally come to fruition. So, for those who backed the comic, you saw in the back pages a project that I worked on many, many years ago, and I gave a little teaser that said, hey, maybe one day this will see print. Well, guess what? That day has come, and today I am joined by my friend and writer of that project, Donald Osborne, and we're going to talk about his project. Well, technically, it was ours at one point, man, because we were working on this project for a while. So before we get into that, let's introduce our buddy Oz, and we're going to tell you folks how we met. So Oz, say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
So we had met at the 2014 Cincinnati Comic Expo. Do you remember that far back, man?
I do. I do remember that The Rock is the reason we are friends.
Yeah, because you just have excellent taste.
Well, you had an excellent drawing on the table, and that's what got me to your table.
I think back to those old days of working the conventions, and I really miss them. Like, outside of the world being different, there was just so much fun to be around other artists and put the stuff out there. And folks, when the world goes back to normal, I advocate that stuff because you can make a friend, you guys can make a connection, and you can have a project. So you saw The Rock, and we just really hit it off instantly, man. So what was next with the evolution of this project?
Well, it was really easy because wrestling being what brought us together started me telling you about one of the heroes of my story and how that he was a wrestler within the story. I do recall telling you a personal anecdote, you laughing and saying if the story is any as good as that it'll be good, which I found good because I was rather self-deprecating at the time. But yeah, it was a few months later that I actually hit you up because I didn't have money when we first met. I just had an idea, and but it was January of 2015 when I got a hold of you and said, "Hey, you still available?" We met, I don't know, maybe a week or two after that, and we were off to the races from there.
Yeah, it was really exciting for me because I was just out of college. We're talking, God, a few months. You met me in September. I graduated in April, and I really had no clue what I was going to do with my life. My mom's like, hey, try, follow your dreams. I'll help you out the best I can. So that's really how you met me, because I was in the process of wanting to be this artist, wanting to pursue this goal. And I thought, well, nothing's going to stop me. And you were technically my first book that will ever see print in terms of what I worked on, because I was hired in college to do a couple pages in a story, but that guy just never did anything with it. He paid me and he went on his own way. And so
right. I remember that. I remember that story.
Project was that first one, man. And I felt so excited to be a professional comic book artist and work on this one. I've had so much fun with it.
Well, just let me tell you, I mean, not only did I have fun, but you, your belief in the project gave me hope that I didn't have it when we first met. Because the reason I was cracking jokes when we met is because back in April of 2014, my wife had left me, and I just felt very defeated. I was working like 2 and 3 jobs to make it and get by. When I went to the con that morning or that day, I had just gotten off from work at 7 a.m. and I was just like, I don't have nothing going on in my life. I'll hop in the car with a couple friends, and it was a great decision.
I mean, not to sound hyperbolic, but it did change your life. I mean, your dreams, your project is now a reality. It's getting ready to be printed. People are getting copies, they're going to buy more. Like, that really was that moment that does change a lot of things. And it's...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, I just remember you're like, hey, I got this teaser. And it was the first couple of pages. And I have one of them, actually, the very first page on screen right now, folks.
You sure do. You sure do. Oh, my goodness. That is so great.
So,
oh my goodness, I love that page.
I do too. You were one of the first people, well, actually you were the very first person too, to send a script that wasn't just a couple of pages or a rough outline. This was the first thing that I had ever worked on with, I guess we did 2 issues worth of stuff, right?
Yeah. So originally I gave you 10 pages just as a fill out, really, to see if you liked what I did, if how fast you were. Like, I gave you the 10 just to see how things went, but when the 10 went so well, you got two more 20 pagers. I originally envisioned the first 10 as like a free comic book day special. Like, it eases people into who the characters are and what they do. But the next two, the 220 pagers, I always thought, well, okay, these can be released as a one and two. But as time passed and life changed, that's when I decided to merge everything all together, and it became one standalone graphic novel.
Now, looking back at some of these pages, like I said to you off air, man, this is something that I got technically hired to draw like 6 years ago, folks. And so when Oz reached out to me a couple weeks ago, when we started talking again, just in general, like, here's how this works, folks. We worked on the project. Everything was cool. Life just got in the way. The channel happened. But now, thankfully, the project is here, and now we're doing this. But, what I'm getting at, people, is it's been so long since I've seen these pages and some of this project, and it's like looking at a new one. I'm excited to look back, and I'm excited to see color added to this stuff, man. I mean, for this being your first book, you also have not only written the book and formed a relationship and found me and worked together, then you hunted down letters and colorists and really put this together. I mean, this book is you. We'll get into the story in a moment, but this is like an amalgamation of everything you've put into it, finally coming to light. So how do you feel currently? Like, are you pumped for this one, man?
It is such a flood of emotions, honestly. Like, yes, I'm super excited, but it's that feeling of like, please love it like I love it. It's like introducing your new girlfriend to your parents and crossing your fingers.
But you know what? This is a good project. That's the thing. This is something that it's like I watched this show called The Rookie, and the episode is where the main character's son brings his girlfriend to town, and so that's like you with this book. But like in the show, he meets her and realizes she's this wonderful girl, and they're together. Like, this project it's so refreshing too, because when we have superhero stories of today, there's this stink that comes with a lot of modern superheroes. I don't even know how to describe what is missing, but your characters really bring that back. There's
I can give you my opinion on what's missing.
Please do.
It's the challenge. They're missing the struggle. Too often in the modern day, I feel like things are just handed to the heroes, whereas to invest in what is happening with any character, but in these characters specifically, it's the struggle that they're dealing with, whether it's a physical struggle or an internal struggle. And I think the struggle is what a lot of modern comics are missing.
I'd agree with that.
No, I'm not saying that everything is bad, obviously. I just think a lot of times, oh, that's a fun homage right there. That's so fun.
Oh,
yeah. But yeah, that's my quick little assumption or analysis of something that could be beneficial for modern stories is don't make things too easy for the person you're supposed to be rooting for, because if everything's too easy, then why do I care?
Exactly. Now, since we brought this image on screen to show people, let's talk about the three main characters. So let's start with the big blue guy in the background. What's his name? What's his powers?
So, sorry, my mom just texted me.
Oh, you're fine, man. So while you're texting her back, I will say to the listeners, this image is a nice callback to an old Batman cover from the 40s, which is something I love across comics in general, the homages to stuff, because what not everyone fails to realize, but what everyone doesn't think about is that all comic creators and artists and stuff are fans of comics. They have inspiration too. A lot of the stuff that inspires you might inspire the creators, the people that are making the new stuff. And so I always love a project that has an homage to something classic. Are you a fan of 1940s Batman, or are you more of a modern day guy?
Honestly, I I'm this I'm gonna start over. This piece was a choice of the new artist. It was Nick's choice to do this homage piece. I love it. I think it was a great choice. But my favorite Batman stories are Long Halloween, Dark Victory, more modern. I mean, not today's Batman necessarily, but not the 40s either.
I'm I'm a sucker for Batman the animated series. I know it's the most basic answer for everyone, but hey, it was perfection.
Well,
Why mess with it?
well, and here's the other thing about the animated series though. It had great comics too. Like, oh my goodness, it was good. It was good stuff.
So
But yeah, so back to your prior question that of that piece. The blue guy in the background, his name is Dominic Canuho. He he wasn't doing so hot at being a professional wrestler, and I know a thing or two about that. I tried to tried that for a few years. Um, yeah, I probably never won a match in about 3 years. It was some of the best times.
you know what? There's no shame. You're not Brooklyn Brawler bad, so don't worry.
Oh my goodness. But the reason he's blue is because when I lived in Hawaii for 3 years, I had an albino Samoan friend, and he stood out in the wrestling game because he was an albino Samoan. So that's what made Dominic's skin turn blue, or in my mind, that's why I chose to change his skin tone, is to give him a reason to stand out in his profession. And so when that change occurred, is when he actually took off and found success, or how, I mean, not why.
I'm pulling up an image in a second, folks, of one of the versions of the characters that I had worked on. Now, let's move over to the lady in front of him.
Yeah. So the female lead, that's Fabiana. She goes by Anna Maldonado. She's the only one of the three who hides her identity, and her hero identity is Sublime Eye. She on a regular basis, she's a nurse, and that's the reason she wears the mask, is so she can help people both as a hero and in her everyday normal life.
And finally, who was our last guy? He might be my personal favorite to draw.
Oh my goodness! So his name is Rhys Shaw, and he was a stuntman, but there was an accident and an explosion on one of the stunts. And after the accident, he got superpowers, and so not only is he fun to draw, but he's just like a very happy person, because he basically has the perfect life, for now.
So the interesting thing, folks, about these characters is just the way they are created. Because when I had worked on another project, I was given a script, and that was it. They described what the characters looked like. Now, Oz, on the other hand, drew me descriptions. He brought me a poster tube full of art, which, by the way, I have never thrown out. I do know where it is, and one day, when I remember, I will give it all back to you.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah, believe me, when I was cleaning stuff, when the channel had taken off, I redid my office, and I found it. And I wish I would have said something then, but I for sure saw it before I moved away. So
That's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, folks, Oz was really, really, really hands-on with the creation of these characters. It wasn't just a simple, here's a couple of lines. Not only are they influenced by his own personal life, but he did design these characters. He drew them, he worked on them, and he gave me outlines, which was fun and really easy. That's why when you say those 10 pages went quickly or went well, it's because you had a vision that was so strong, which has seen its way to completion now. But you had this idea of what you wanted the characters to look like, who they were, and it really made it easy to work on this project because they were already fleshed out when they were handed to me. I just drew this. This is really your story and your project. I'm just the guy that, facilitated something to look at. So,
well, let's give you a little more credit than that. Without you, this would have just still been in my head. Like, yeah, there might be words on paper, but without you, that's all it is words on paper. So go ahead and pat yourself on the back because you're what made this happen to begin with.
Well,
Had you not believed in me, it still just would have been thoughts.
well, aren't you glad it's more than just thoughts now, dude?
Oh, absolutely. This is yeah, it's everything I wanted it to be, and I'll be honest with you, it's just the beginning. If not, I can't say if, but when this takes off, I'm so excited to show everybody the progression of the story. I was talking to a friend about this earlier today. I said, because he asked me, he was like, "Oh, if one of the big guys came and wanted it," I said, I couldn't sell this, even if I wanted to. I was like, I can't take the chance that some corporation is going to stop me from telling the story the way that it needs to be told. I said, once we're a few years in and all the groundwork is laid, okay, I'll think about it. But like, I can't even imagine somebody guiding the ship that isn't me.
Well, you know what? You really don't have to worry about that, dude, because we live in the era where independent comic books are way more attractive in terms of creators than going for the big two. Now, I know we had talked off air about a couple of connections and stuff I had made. I even know what a lot of the big people are going to pull in at the end of the day and stuff. And it sucks because, yeah, you're going to make your money, but then you're going to watch your creation make even more money, and it's not even yours. And then it's not even about the money. It's like you say, the control. These are your
Oh yeah,
babies. This is your character,
but
man.
because
And
I know where this is going, in the next issue and the one after that and the one after that, and if something was to change, if even just one of the three characters got taken off course, it just wouldn't be right. And so that's what I worry about. Not money. I mean, don't get me wrong, money's nice, but I worry about the characters, not anything else.
well, dude, it shows you are realistically in terms of money. You put everything into this project. I mean, we're talking
Well, and
you.
that's what took the time though, is because so you know how you said that we started this years ago. Well, the reason it took this long to get here is because a valuable lesson I learned in wrestling is you don't do work that you don't get paid for. And so that's why. So I don't know if it's cool that I say this, but if it isn't, just cut it out. But Jeff asked me multiple times to give him pages, and I didn't have money to pay for it, so I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't give Jeff pages until I could afford to pay him because that's what wrestling taught me. I can't ask you to do the job if I can't pay you to do the job. I had that happen before, and I didn't like it, so I wasn't going to do it to him, and I'm not going to do it to anybody else.
Dude, I will say this now, I will say this moving forward forever. Working with you, for you, however you want to phrase it, was one of the easiest things. Folks, let me tell you something. True story. Funny story, actually. So 2015, August, I was down in Kentucky. You came up to see me at Fandom Fest. And it was
Yep.
funny too. You talk about like how needs happen at just the right time. I had banked everything on working this convention, and it fell apart. The convention was a shit show. But because of the project we were working on, I knew I was meeting you, and I knew everything would be cool. So believe me, there are multiple occasions where, like, you talk about how you want to conduct business a certain way, and it's always awesome. But then because of the way you've conducted business, there are times when somebody like me really needed shit, and you were always there. So working on this project, I always had good feelings. And like you said, stuff took time because of money, and there was never any professional falling out or anything like that. It just stuff took time, life's changed, and thankfully we're now back on that path together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me and say, "Oh, what was it like changing artists throughout the process?" And because they stopped talking to me, I didn't answer the question, but I'll answer the question right here. There was no changing artists in the process. When Jeff found success, I was happy for him, and I just thought, okay, I'll figure it out, and inevitably I did. It, I had kind of not given up, but I had put the story on the shelf for a moment, and I was working security, just walking around the building. I looked in a cubicle, I saw drawings, and I said, "Hey man, what's your page rate?" And he said, "I've never been paid to draw." I said, "Well, it looks like you need to be." So, um, yeah, the second artist, Nick, I'm the first person who paid him to draw also. And as you can see, he has a different style, but it's also a fun style. It's a very fluid style. And the more he's done, the more comfortable he's gotten, the faster he's gotten. We've worked well together, and I have faith that he'll be able to get all the future stories out on time.
Oh, dude, when you started sending me pictures of the new artwork, I was so happy because, again, like I had said, this is a project that was a long time ago. Things, life gets crazy. I hadn't really thought about it in a while. But to see Dom pop up again, I was like, cool. And I love who you got. And what I really like, and this is what I wanted to talk about for a minute, it's funny, even though we weren't working together, there are a lot of crossover people from Stealing Solo folks, which because Oz was like, hey man, do you know any people about specific things? So here was the coolest part. So when you and I were working on this project way back in the day, you would send me messages on Facebook. What do you think of this color? What do you think of this? You would show me pictures of the Justice League and all these people's portfolio pieces. And so actually the first time I'd ever seen anyone else really color my artwork was on this project with you. And that was so fun. And I love that.
Do you remember where Gustavo was from?
Spain, right?
Yeah, he's from Madrid, Spain. And the only reason I needed a new... What's that?
We're still Facebook friends.
Oh, yeah, he's such a nice guy. Oh, my goodness. It was just that he had moved on with his life, just like with everything else. It wasn't a falling out. It was just, because of how much time there was between you finishing and Nick starting, Gustavo had decided to put away coloring and focus on another career. And so that's why I reached out to you and asked, just for direction, basically. And that's when we get this new Stealing Solo tie-in.
Yeah, right here, folks. As you can see, we have Oz as the writer, the first artist, Nick is the second. But Gustavo, and my personal color is February Ferdinand, the guy that does the trading cards and all kinds of stuff, folks, that you like, that I love to put out currently. He's a part of that, as well as Letter Squid. He did the entire lettering. And these are all dudes that I've loved to work with, and it's cool that look, play like this. I liked working with you. It was great. I wouldn't change anything. And I liked working with these guys. It was great. I wouldn't change anything. So it's cool that everybody on this project I've worked with in some way, except for Nick, which I'd like to meet Nick someday, hang out with you guys. I mean, you're both in Ohio, so I mean, I come back to Ohio frequently. Once the world opens up, I'll be there a couple times a year. So this is, I want to meet Nick and be like, hey, dude, I'm excited to see what you do next.
Oh yeah, and I love it. It's just it's a family atmosphere. Febreze always been great, and Letter Squid's always quick, like, and like I saw just a handful of things need to be fixed. They were fixed in no time. It was a breeze.
Another reason I like working with that guy is when I had all that bullshit happen with my first printer and everything was going down, he reached out of the blue and said, hey man, what's up? Is there anything I can do to help you? And from that moment on, I was like, anything I need lettered, I'm going to this dude. That's good character in my opinion. So
absolutely.
But I wanted to put some more of Nick's pages on here because it's really weird, not in a bad way. It's not bizarre. I'm going to get to say something cool. It's like when Steve Ditko could have looked at John Romita's artwork and gone, oh, this is what he does with my character. And I'm not saying this is my character at all, because this is, your art, your designs. But
I know what you're getting at, though. You were the first person to touch these characters besides me.
Yeah, and it's cool to see somebody else do it, and how his panel structure and stuff. Really, that comes from you. You have a very strong panel structure. And I'm going to pull up a specific page in a moment because you brought up the wrestling history, and that's really.
Oh my goodness! I love this. I love what you're talking about. I know where this is going.
Yeah, dude. The wrestling part of this story was one of my absolute favorites to work on. I mean, seriously. You and I go back in terms of being wrestling fanatics. That's one of the foundations of our friendship. But, to get to not only talk about wrestling with somebody, but create new wrestling matches in the pages of a comic book was exciting. That was the part where I freaked out the most because I got to sit. I think I even posted on Facebook, dude. Next time it pops up in my feed, I'll tag you. But I had posted, today I get to draw a wrestling match and get paid for it, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, I remember you telling me that when you first started on it, that it was your favorite thing that I had written up until that point.
Oh God, yes. See,
And
uh,
go ahead.
well, I always use a wrestling phrase about kayfabe, which you would understand completely. But the way you wrote the wrestling match was very similar to how a listener or a reader would read it. And so, being a wrestling fan, like you had the structure and the pace. If you're focused, if you're a wrestling fan, this is for you. If you're not a wrestling fan, this is for you. But I will say, a lot of people
Yeah,
who
I didn't oversaturate. I didn't oversaturate the issue or the story with the wrestling. I tried to pick just the right amount to uh, to illustrate to the reader why this is important for the story.
oh yeah, and here's the thing I really want people to know about, folks. If you put a profession like your profession in your art, there is a certain level of I won't say realism. Like you're supposed to represent your craft well, and you did a hell of a job, dude. Like I said, I'm not a wrestler, but I've been watching for 20 years. This reads like wrestling. This feels like wrestling. It's very authentic, is what I'm trying to say. And it's my personal favorite part of the book. I mean, we got some of the pages right here. We got entrances. We got color. We got atmosphere. I love how the colorist, because I don't know who did what page. I love how they added the glint to the belt. Like,
oh, okay. So these, yeah, these are all Gustavo. These are all Gustavo's pages.
okay.
Yeah, I had to remember there for a moment, but yeah, all the wrestling are Gustavo.
All right, cool. Because this was so cool, man. I mean, I love how he built the atmosphere. Because I was thinking of the movie No Holds Barred. Remember the opening? How Hulk Hogan fights?
Oh, absolutely,
whoever?
absolutely.
That was the vibe I was getting off of this in my brain when I was working on it.
I love that. I do. There's literally a time in my life I thought about basing this in the '80s just to have that feel to it. But I went away from that. But yeah, there was a time that I thought about having it in the '80s for that purpose.
So who are some of your inspirations in terms of wrestlers that you use? Any wrestlers, or is it just your buddy? Like nobody, old school WWF or WWE in terms of design choices for Dom?
Honestly, his attire is loosely based on a version of a singlet I never used myself.
Oh, okay.
So I had this grand illusion that I was going to be a hot baby face. I was only ever a good guy one night in my life. And so I didn't get to use this good guy gear that I had made. And so this is very similar to good guy gear that I had made for myself, thinking that I was going to get to sell some 8x10s, but it never came to be. I was only a good guy on 9/11 of 2011. And every show before that, I was a bad guy, and every show after that, I was a bad guy. But on 9/11 of 2011, I got to portray myself, an Army veteran, who was thanked by the crowd and then mocked by a bad guy. So I was like, oh yay, I get to be a good guy from here on out. And next show, the promoter said, hey kid, we're gonna take this another direction. So I never got to be the good guy I wanted to be.
Now, you brought up your service. Is there any kind of inspiration in the comic from your time in the military?
No. So not yet, I guess is probably a more accurate term. So it's stated in passing that Dom had served in the military, but it's not touched on here, and there will be military inspired characters show up in the future, but again, not in this issue. It doesn't come to be play into the story. I do lay the groundwork so that when it comes, it won't be out of nowhere.
See, that's why when I was talking to you a moment ago, or before we started recording, about the influence and stuff of the characters, because I find it so interesting how we all put ourselves into our work and don't even realize it at times. And then there's times where we really do try to put ourselves into work and kind of, like me, it's weird drawing myself into a book that people buy, because it's like it's not even like an ego thing. It's just like a bizarre realization to like draw a little picture of my face and know that it's part of a story. So that's how like I get to put myself in there. So I ask a writer, their experiences, how they put themselves in the project. So,
Well, I'm not sure if you're actually asking me how, but if you are, I'm going to say it just comes naturally to me. There's not a time that anything is happening with any of the characters that I can't at least somewhat relate to what is happening. There are even minor characters that in this issue you might not think are relevant, but trust me, they're going to be, and they're probably more me than anybody else in the whole thing. So just keep in mind, audience, that when you read this, there's no such thing as an unimportant character. If they're speaking in this story, you should probably remember who they are for the future.
now, this is a pretty hefty book, folks. This is not just, a 22 pager. This is 68 pages of comic book. So there's a lot of meat into this. So we've talked about how we met. We talked about a good chunk of the process because, folks, this was super, super easy. It was meet up with Oz, sometimes get a script, most of the times get the script. Then it was send the pages to him, and boom, it was done. It was one of the easiest processes ever. And it's
Hey, you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah, of course.
So there was only one time I ever needed an edit from you. Do you remember what it was?
No, I forgot.
It's the first page. You drew the lead bad guy with no hair. And I said, no, he has to have the wild hair. That's just the way I see him in my mind.
Oh,
but yeah, if you go back to the first page, you'll see that is the only edit I've ever needed from you.
Let me go back. I got it at the very beginning of this.
Yeah, I just think that's a lot of fun. The idea that out of all the things, there was only one time I was like, this has to be the way that it is.
Not to go on the whole artist journey thing with you, but going back and my process is such a different thing now. But the funny part is, dude, I use the exact same software and equipment that I did on the project back when I was working with you. I haven't upgraded anything in that term, but just all the time put into art and time put into, learning the creative process, it almost feels like I didn't do this, if that makes sense. Not in terms of pride of it.
I understand that for sure, because at one point this was an end of the story.
Yeah.
But because of having to figure out what best way to marry all of these different scripts together, because again, remember, there was 10, then there was 20, there was 20, and then now we've added the additional pages from the new artist. So I had to figure out the best way. And also, audience, I used to work in TV, so editing is something I'm quite familiar with. So what I did was I had everything laid out. I said, what is the best way to make all of this fit together? And that's why this page, it used to be, that's Professor Foley-Moore the Fourth. He's the lead antagonist of the story. And so this page used to be the end, but upon analyzing all the pieces of the puzzle I said, no, this is now the beginning. This is where everything starts. And once I figured that out, it became easier to see how all of the pieces fit together.
That took me back, man, because I have the files still. I don't delete anything in terms of art. And that had, this also too, we actually didn't talk about the title. I got up this at the beginning. So this is technically The Everlasting Survivors. Now, when I was starting out, the title was kind of in flux, correct?
Well, so the problem was I could never make up my mind. Survivors was always there in some form or fashion. I had Adventures of the Survivors, and then I don't know how I fell into this. I had another title, which I'm not going to say here because it's a whole nother story now. But I had a working title because I was like, that's so good, but I don't. But it just didn't fit. I kept coming back to Survivors, and I don't even know where the word everlasting came from. But when I laid it all out, do you have the logo handy? Because when I laid it all out, and I had that up arrow. When I drew that out, and I had Everlasting Survivors, and that arrow just fell into place, I said, "Well, that's the answer right there." Because because the concept of the heroes, I can't believe we're now 35 minutes in and I'm just now telling everybody, but the concept of these heroes are, um, if there is a death blow that comes to them, they will rise back up with an additional change to them. And so that's why they are everlasting survivors. And when I saw that A and that I put that up arrow, I said, well, that's the answer right there.
I see, because I just remember thinking of it called something else the entire time when I was working on it. I won't say it in case that's the name that you want to use for something else or keep secret, but I'll text it to you later. But I remembered working on it as something else, at least
I'm
sort of.
yeah. So I know what you're thinking, and it was a working title at one point.
Okay.
And there's a fun story behind that too, but it's that's a story for another time.
All right, Maz Kanata. I'm going to pull up the original because I'm looking at the cover we had worked on together, talking about Everlasting Survivors. Because this
Right.
was the first time I think I ever saw the logo. Right, we had worked on this.
Oh my
Now,
goodness, yeah. Oh wow.
now
I love that.
wasn't this something I drew much later after the project and came,
Um
or was this way
so
back then?
okay, so this is before you moved because you had physical prints of this at one of the free comic book days in Cincy at Rock and Rooster. That's how
Oh,
confident you were that this was going to come to life. You said, "I'm going to promote you at Free Comic Book Day." You said, "Hey, is that cool?" I was scared to death. I was like, "I love it. I'm excited," but man, was I scared. I thought to myself, I was like, "What if it never sees the light of day?" I don't know if I ever said that to you, but I was nervous. But you were so confident that you had them printed out and you promoted it. I don't know, maybe it was 2016, maybe it was 2017, but you were excited. You promoted it for me or us, whatever, however you want to phrase it. You promoted the story at Free Comic Book Day with this image.
yeah, it's all coming back because this is, I keep saying my favorite things to work on the project. It's this image, a page that I'm going to show before we go because you brought up your TV thing, which I'll tell you why I like it, and then that other wrestling match. Those were all things that really spoke to me in terms of getting to draw. But the reason I had asked is because I'm always trying to get better. Like if you look at this art compared to what I draw now, it's an evolution. I mean, my inking's a lot tighter. My pencil work, whatever, but the inking is really a lot different. But this is one of those projects where I got really comfortable inking. I really liked this. This is why I even said to you, "Hey, is this cool?" Because I needed one more page in Stealing Solo. Literally anything. I could have left it blank, but I thought, no, I paid for this page. It's going to cost me, if it's black and white, if it's ink, if it's anything, I'm going to pay the same rate. And I thought, this is an image I'm really proud of. This is something I've liked. I don't care if I draw a million comic book pages, and this will still be something I'm proud of because it was like that litmus test that I knew I could do something like
Oh my,
this.
I can't tell you how much that means. And honestly, that you asking me, can I use this, was one of the major turning points to know. Just like when you printed it, when you asked it, could you put it in the book? That was another one of those points where I said, well, I know there's no turning back now. When you said it's going in the book, I said, well, it has to come out as a book. I can't give up. I can't stop fighting. So just as much as you are proud of your work, I'm grateful for how you feel toward it because had you not hit me up, I there's a chance I might not have fought so hard.
I'm glad I did then. Like, this was just, like I said, man, this was something that I had been in situations where I was paid to draw a comic and then I never saw anything of it. But this was the one that was, we became friends in the process. We still are friends, and that's cool that we're at it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's been almost, dude, this September, I'll have known you for 7 years. I can't believe 7 years of my life have passed this quickly.
Right. I mean, well, that's just how life goes. I tell you. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't have to tell you, but like that's it. Every year it just goes by faster.
yeah, man, I can't, like 2020 was a shit year for everybody, so I'm glad it's over, but I can't believe how quick it went. I'm 2 months into this year, I'm having the time of my life, so it's like a whole nother life. But yeah, I'm so glad that we have those similar feelings about, this project. Because like even on the cover here, I remember when we were working on it, And I'm on a different computer, else I'd try to pull up the black and white line art to show exactly what we sent off to Gustavo. But like, this was that thing where I was like, this is the first time I experiment with the explosion brush. This is the first time I used certain pieces of art skills that I had learned elsewhere. And this was kind of one of the first times, and this is a little peek behind the curtain, when I started drawing figures on separate pages and then kind of putting them together and resizing and stuff. So this was kind of a real big deal to me. And so I love looking at it. And it's fun. And I miss seeing Gustavo color my work. I love February. I beyond happy with his work, never want to change. But it's nice to just see how things looked back in the day.
I agree 100%. And it's nice to see that peek behind the curtain, because those aren't conversations we often had because of our distance between one another. Again, no knock. I mean, it was always great when we got together, but the 2 or 3 hours was never enough to get every detail like that out.
No, because we enjoyed talking to each other, which is not trying to, promote a book or anything. We honestly got along that well that it was difficult to stay on topic at times, man.
Oh, for sure. Well, and it didn't hurt that we were typically at comic shops.
I'm glad you brought up Rock and Rooster. That's something I definitely miss. A place that I haven't. I mean, I went in there over the summer before all the travel and stuff was shut down. I couldn't leave California still here, but that was one of the last places I went to, and I still love that store. And it was so fun that we would go in there and talk about our dream and stuff, and it's real. It's not like we were just two dudes that were like, yeah, maybe one day it'll happen, and just bartered around and hoped. Yeah, you busted your ass. You made sure that you had the money to pay me. I drew the pages, and here we are. So
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's different to not think of it as a dream anymore, but as a reality, because for so long it was just a hope.
So I put an Easter egg in this comic. Would you like to know, or you want to see it get printed out and then find it for yourself?
Yeah,
you know what? I'll let you find it when it comes to print.
I think that's the right way to go. I think that's the right way.
Yeah, maybe the listeners can get in on that one too. It's fun. You have looked at it's very obvious, but it's very funny to me. And so it's been there the whole time. Now, I wanted to share this too, because you brought up how you worked in TV, which is a part of this story. You have knowledge of how TV rooms work, and you wrote that into the story when the I forgot her name, the press lady. Is it Carol?
Marie. Her name used to be Carol, but it's Marie Cantrell now. I changed her last name from Carol to Cantrell.
Cool. So I wasn't crazy. I kept looking at that because do you remember the pinups that you had made?
I still have them. Yep.
I just remember the red-haired lady. I'm like, is that Carol? That's all I kind of remembered her as. But
it's what you saved the file as. You saved it under her last name.
So here's the page that I personally am like super, super into. And this is a very basic page. It's just the TV studio. But this was the first thing I had drawn with the perspective tool and got it all right. Like see, these are the little technical things where I look back on like our project back then and go, this was cool. And so I get excited on little things like that. So when you're looking at it from a story standpoint, I'm always looking at it from the little technical things. And, something as basic as this page, which people would just gloss over, is something that I spent a lot of time on, but it really helped me as an artist in general, because the perspective tool is wonderful for those who do digital art. It helps you build a world instantly. So that's what I used here.
The thing I love about this, and we're not on the dialogue pages, but when people get the book and they see the dialogue, I love that the letterer, he was able to put the text coming off of the screens to demonstrate that it's not the people in the studio who are doing the talking, but not the studio. It is the people in the studio, the anchor here and the guest, that are talking on the screen, not the director and the producer, which I thought, well, again, when people get the book, they'll see it, and it's just a little touch that is very important.
Dude, Letter Squids, man, goes above and beyond. The cool thing about working with him, and this is anybody that's looking for him, you can just Google him. I highly recommend him. But he asks you, like, do you have any plans? What do you want? And you can basically explain shit, and he'll give you something completely different, but it's exactly what you wanted the whole time. Like, he is the people that are involved with this project are so I hate to say it, but good. Like, really, I'm really happy that they had a good relationship with you. And I'm looking at the letter pages currently. Dom has a blue word balloon. That's a
Dude,
nice touch. It's
uh,
like when Thor has his own text.
check this out. I didn't ask for that.
See?
That was all him. That was all him. The only thing he asked me what I wanted, just like you said he would. I only requested one thing, and if you could pop up a letter page,
Sure. Any specific one?
yeah, any one of the concert pages, because that's the only thing I asked for him the whole time. I said, anytime the band is performing, I want it to look like this, and he hit it right out of the park.
You
Whether
must.
the music is coming out of the club or it's in the club, wherever it was, anytime music is playing, he hit it perfect. Because it's music, I needed it to stand out and not be in a word balloon or be something that you could be confused with anything other than what it is. And then when I saw it, I said, perfect. He nailed it perfectly.
Yeah, I'm pulling that up right now. This is the one thing I was going to make a joke. You must be psychic because I was looking through the lettered pages and I thought to myself, oh, this is the wrong thing. I said, maybe I should ask if he wants to show one lettered page because this shit turned out cool. So hold on, let me take a second to
Yeah, absolutely.
boom. This software we're using has actually changed recently. So I'm used to different stuff. Anyway, there we go. So here's the concert you're talking about.
Yeah, so Rhys is after having a long hard day, he goes to the club because he's got the perfect life, and the band that's playing in the club is a friend of mine's actual band. Like if you go on SoundCloud or any of those there things, so the guy singing, that's Blake Roberts. You look up "Tomorrow Lives" and you can listen to the song that's being played in any of the panels. So I definitely recommend that because what I did was I listened to all of the songs. So there are 3 songs performed during these scenes. And I listened and I said, okay, this is the part in the song I need it to be for whatever part of the scene is playing out. So I thoroughly recommend it. Like I said, SoundCloud, you can listen to it for free. Band's name's Tomorrow Lives. The album's name is Skeletons in My Closet.
See, it's like a 4D experience. It's that next. It's like, oh, listen to this song, read the comic, get the soundtrack.
Exactly. Coming soon.
This was fun too because what's Rhys's name? Rhys, that's his name.
Yeah, Rhys.
Rhys's
Yep, that's his name.
character. You gave me pictures of him and stuff,
Yep.
but one of the influences on certain things about him was my buddy Dion. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my goodness.
He's wholly your character, but there are certain mannerisms and ways he acts that I'm like, this reminds me of how Dion would be if he was an actor. So I kind of wrote my own, in quotation, story for how this character moves and interacts with the world.
If I had to guess, I would wager to say that the dance scene in the prior page is one of the influential. I'm just taking a stab in the dark.
Let me for those. I won't show the letter. Actually, you know what? Because I can crop out anything because it'll show how cool letter splits did without actually telling your story.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And by the way, even the non music stuff, the text is just so. And it's funny too, folks. You think, oh, the text you read on a comic is so basic. To me, that's the hardest thing to achieve.
It certainly is. And this scene, I'm not trying to give it away, but this scene that you're just scrolling past, it is so important for that character because it is. It just shows what she goes through on a daily basis is why that's so important. But yeah, I knew this was what you're talking about. Oh my goodness, I love this.
And that's not even the secret Easter egg, dude. Like there's something else. I'll tell you when it's in print because it's not bad. It's funny as shit. It's just
sure, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, when I was working on these characters and stuff, I just always was looking for small ways to feel invested in their journey as well. So I would always just do little things that would never change the character or the story, but would keep me just as invested because I knew you had a lot planned. I knew we were working on what I do 50 pages overall for the project.
Yeah. So you did 50 pages. They've been edited to become 53 in totality. Because when I was restructuring the way things played out, um, in reality, two panels got lost. So whenever there's a massive collection in the future, I'll throw those in and say these are the what hit the cutting room floor. But yeah, those 50 pages turned into 53 totally.
I was looking because I saw the last page was reused twice, correct?
Not the last page, the studio page. The
Okay,
the
yeah,
lead
that's
in the lead into the interview is the same as the lead out, but the dialogue is so different that I thought that I could get by with because people do that all the time. You see it in Invincible, I think Volume 1 maybe, and it's a gag in the book, obviously, but because Mark Grayson he goes to meet his idol, and it's being talked about how that the same drawings are being used over and over. But
dude.
I needed
It's
I needed an out for that interview, and so originally the out was the commercials, but I moved those earlier into the issue. So I thought to myself, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna use the same intro to the interview and make it the outro because all it does is changes the dialogue coming from the monitors. I mean, a producer and a director don't really move a whole heck of a lot, so their placement in the panel perfect, and it makes sense that the interviewer he is now looking at the screen to tell everybody to stay tuned and junk. So that's why it shows up twice.
I love that kind of stuff in comics. It's always been a part. I mean, Watchmen uses the panel symmetry, and I mean that's one of the things they teach you actually to reuse certain pieces of art to replicate a beat because you can't. You can do it in film, but if you try to redraw it one to one on the page, there's going to always be the differences. So it's a tried and true method. I love. To me, it's fun. There are times
Well,
where I reused assets to pad out stuff too.
I'm so glad that you're a fan because I honestly was worried when I knew that I had to make changes. I was like, man, I don't want him to think that this is insulting that I'm rearranging the pieces because they're still your pieces. They're still the things that you did. I just instead of things happening at night, now they're happening during the day or vice versa. And in that case, they had to happen twice.
Dude,
So
I love everything you did with this. Not to go on and try to talk to people like this way, but like I said, folks, this is like seeing old stuff in a new life to me. So I'm really excited by this one, and I loved it back then, and I still love it now. It's a good comic. I enjoyed working on it, and I want more to come from you. I'd love to be able to say, hey, let's do more. I can't promise that, but one day we will do something else together. I want to work together on something because this was such a breeze, and we really built a friendship out of a project.
absolutely, and honestly, I welcome that any day. And heck, even if it's not work, I just want I'm just glad that we got the time that we did.
Oh, dude, yeah. Like this wasn't us trying to be like super nice to each other, folks, on the air. This is two guys that haven't seen each other in person probably 4 years, maybe. But
Probably, yeah.
it's been a crazy ride. That's the fun part, though. It's not over. And now that this project has life, I want to see where these characters go. I want to see, you know.
I can't wait to tell you off air because I know.
So, is there anything else that you want to tell the listeners about the story, the characters, yourself, anything? Like this is, this is it, man.
Uh, uh, Indiegogo.com, Everlasting Survivors. I know they need to know that.
Oh, of course. Whenever I share this, wherever I share this, I'll always have the links to the project because I want to see this be huge. I'm proud of this. It was fun to work on, and I want to see it go on.
Awesome. Yeah. Like I said, the most important thing is remember that there aren't unimportant characters because even people that don't seem important are going to be important, and things that might not seem relevant are going to become foundational.
So what he's saying, folks, is make sure you pay very close attention to the story as you read it, because there's more than just meets the eye. This is an epic. It's going to go more than just this one book, and you're going to learn a lot about these characters. It's like it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. You think you knew everything about him in that first movie, but then you get to Return to the Jedi, and he's way more interesting because what about Luke? Did he lie to his father? Different point of view. And then there's the prequel, and you learn all about him. So that's where these characters are, folks. This is the beginning of their life. They're already somewhere very interesting, very fun, very unique, but they're going to keep on going. So get this book because, look, I hate missing out on number ones. This is one of those things where all collectors want to get in at the beginning of something. And look at The Walking Dead, look at Invincible, look at all these independent books that you have really bought and believed in and supported, and look where they are. So, dude, you're now in the same conversation. You're officially a comic book writer. You got a book that's about to be in print, and you've just been interviewed to promote your book. So how do you feel?
I feel excellent.
That's how I feel about this project, and that's how I feel about this whole day, man. It's been catch up, but it's been so good. Honestly, I just forgot how much fun everything had been. I haven't heard your voice in 4 years, so this has been crazy.
Yeah, it's strange that we talk so often on the internet and like via text. I mean, but yeah, it has. Well, it's just it's good to catch up.
Hell yeah, dude. So, folks, I will be sharing links to this project all over social media. I will be talking about stuff with Oz. Hopefully, we can work out some more stuff. So, how many days are left in the project, man?
There are 19 days remaining.
So, folks, there are 19 days, like Oz just said. I didn't even need to repeat it, but don't miss out because you'll regret it. I've had people, Jeff, how can I get your book? You missed out on Indiegogo. But don't miss out on, I almost called it the original name. Sorry, don't miss out on the Everlasting Survivors. This is a book. I drew it. Oz wrote it. It's a book that has both of our influences in it in different ways, and it's something that is so fun, so unique, and you can only get here. So, Oz, this is your project. What are the final words that you would like to say to the audience?
There's so much more to come. There's so much more.